What is the state of technology use in academic advising and counseling? Technology has been integrated to many aspects of our lives, but the use of technology in these services lags behind. I will attempt to answer what academic advisors and counselors are currently doing with technology, as well as highlight the need for the expansion of this type of work. Why pair these two services? The simple answer may be that I am a counselor and an advisor, but there is more. One reason is the relative delay of these services being provided through virtual means. Classes can be taken completely online, and other college services, such as financial aid and admissions, can be done without ever having to meet a representative. Another reason to pair these services is the similarity in which they're both delivered. Traditionally, each has been done in person. Building a genuine relationship is important to both advising and counseling. The student must be able to trust the counselor or advisor for the work to be useful. Both professions are governed by confidentiality, so virtual communication can be seen as tricky. A final reason to examine these services as a pair is the role of the school counselor. A school counselor working in a K-12 setting is both a personal counselor and an academic advisor. Only at the collegiate level is the role of the school counselor carried out by two different types of professionals. There are legal reasons for the distinction once the individual has reached 18. Another question may be, why are these services important? Mental health is a growing issue, or rather a better identified issue in the United States, and students are no exception. Nearly 30% of college students sought out services from college counseling centers in 2015, which is a steep increase from the 16% in 2012. Academic advising can be just as important to students and a university on a different level. Quality academic advising has shown to be a positive indicator of student satisfaction, institutional commitment, and lower attrition rates. Advisors have also been seen to have a positive effect on other factors, such as academic integration, which themselves increase retention. So you might be convinced that these services are similar and important, but you might ask why advisors and counselors should change what they're doing. Distance education students have the same needs as in-person students, so there has to be a way to deliver these services to those students. Additionally, technology can free up time spent on clerical duties, making professionals more free to see students. In the past 5 years, the National Academic Advisor Association, or NACADA, updated the standard of practice to include advising distance learners, and the American Counseling Association, or the ACA, updated the Code of Ethics to include counseling clients remotely. So there's organizational support for technological integration. Distance education students are more commonly employed, have families, and are non-traditional. Many of these students need to be able to contact people for help when it is convenient, and technology can remedy this. Additionally, these students rely on advising to expedite their time in school, so it would be unethical to deny them this service. So what about professionals? How do they feel about this type of counseling and advising? Studies have shown a gradual increase in counselors' comfort in using technology. It seems that as counselors are trained in technology, they are more likely to use it. One area that's been a holdout is using technology to provide direct services, such as one-on-one counseling. Most professionals agree that something has to be available to students in distance education programs. Ignoring this population is unethical. However, there remains no consensus on best practices when interacting with clients remotely. Relatively little research has been done on how advisors feel about advising remotely, but it is more common. And what about students? How do they feel about interacting with professionals via the internet? Most studies point out that students still prefer face-to-face communication. However, these preferences should not discount the use of email, video chat, or instant messaging. Students were open to other forms of communication, even if they liked in-person interactions best. Distance education students usually do not have the luxury of ever meeting with an advisor or counselor in person. As attrition rates are higher for distance education programs, these students may be more in need of these services. But now let's take a look at the technology that these professionals might be using, such as email, social media, and advising programs, and consider their pros and cons. Students can interact with professionals via telephone. In one study, this was seen by students as the best alternative to in-person communication. Additionally, counselors at a virtual school in Florida indicated that phone calls were the most common form of student interaction. With telephone calls, verbal cues are still audible, therefore it helps preserve some of the in-person feeling. Email is seen as a relatively comfortable mode of communication, and at times better than face-to-face contact. In the same study mentioned in the last slide, email was the third highest ranked option for advising. Additionally, in another study, clients were able to contact counselors via email and reported it reduced the anxiety associated with reaching out for help. Web camera technology can be helpful in recreating the in-person experience. Physical and verbal cues are preserved this way. Students in an experimental study reported no difference in their satisfaction with advising provided face-to-face versus web camera. Additionally, it has been found to be held in high regard by students. Social media could be unethical in its use in counseling. The counseling relationship is confidential, so being public friends with a client on Facebook could be seen as breaking confidentiality. However, the Crisis Text Line has started a partnership with Facebook. If someone posts a concerning status, Facebook will prompt the user to open up a private chat with an on-call counselor. Students have mixed opinion about social media and advising. While some advisors have successfully connected with students on Facebook after establishing an in-person relationship, other students feel that social media is no place for academics. One takeaway might be to integrate social media functionality into a school app where students could contact a counselor or advisor. A more common use of technology in this area is degree audit reports for advising. These reports are computerized systems that help determine what requirements are remaining. The tool can alleviate advisors' time so they have more time to spend with students. These tools should not replace an advisor, as students still need a professional to contextualize the information and provide further support. Technology is creeping into advising and counseling more and more. This presentation was aimed at giving an overview of the current state of how professionals are using technology in their work and why that work is so important. More research needs to be done to establish best practices so that distance education students are not an afterthought. Thank you for watching.